A little girl sexually assaulted and murdered. Now tonight, investigators are opening up like they've never done in the Jodi Parrack case.
WSBT 22's Suzanne Spencer has covered this since police arrested Daniel Furlong last year. And Suzanne, we've all heard the awful details about what happened to Jodi.
Imagine being the investigator sitting in the interrogation room as Daniel Furlong confessed to exactly how he killed the 11-year-old. It's something that still haunts them today.
She said, please let me go, let me go. I said, honey, I can't let you go right now.
Words that send chills down anyone's spine.
You can't help but feel that in your own heart.
That's something I will always remember.
For 8 years, the Jodi Parrack case was open and raw in the mind of these investigators.
It's hard to put that in words.
It was something that we all had waited for a long time.
It was evening, November 8th, 2007. Jodi's mother was the one who found her 11-year-old daughter with marks around her neck and wrists, not breathing. She was wearing the same black sweater she wore earlier that day. No trace of her killer. Investigators did find blood and saliva on Jodi's chest and sweater. Here's what police told WSBT 22 back in 2007.
We have his DNA, and we just want the rest of them. And we're going to find the rest of them.
In 2011, Michigan's cold case team took over. More DNA tests than any other case in the state. 2,000 tips, 4 investigators. One of those, Trooper Brian Fuller.
I have a daughter that is the same age as Jodi would be. And you can't help but feel that in your own heart as it relates to your own personal being.
July 2015, Daniel Furlong struck again. He lured a 10-year-old girl into his garage, tried to tie her up, and later admitted he was going to kill her. She got away. He was arrested and voluntarily gave his DNA. And for the first time, they had it to test in Parrack's murder. One phone call from the DNA lab, and Lieutenant Chuck Christensen knew.
Tell me we got a hit. And she said, yeah, you're not going to believe it, we did.
All of a sudden, investigators were on the brink of what would become the most critical break in the Jodi Parrack case. Furlong's DNA was an exact match to the blood and saliva found on Jodi's chest and sweater.
That's when my heart was beating, and you get ramped up psychologically.
He then had the job of telling Daniel Furlong at his White Pigeon home the evidence against him was solid.
How do you explain your blood being on her?
I can't. I don't think it's my blood.
You're gonna have to. It is. There's no question about that.
You could see the color drain from his face. He started shivering uncontrollably. He knew that we knew it was him, without a doubt.
Mr. Furlong's urges, or whatever it was that sparked him to strike again, basically, led to his demise in the solving of the Jodi Parrack investigation.
I thought, oh God, what did I do here? You know.
What did you do?
That's when I put the bag over her face.
What was the reason for that, then?
Probably to get rid of, not probably to get rid of her.
To kill her, you mean?
When that came out, when he fully admitted that that was an intentional act, I went from thinking there's a sick person to there's a real bastard.
One of the really chilling things I heard throughout all of this, investigators asked Furlong if Jodi was targeted. He said no. When they asked him, had it been any girl, you were ready? He said yes. It's just absolutely, very chilling thing to hear.
It almost takes your breath away to hear some of that.
It does.
It's hard to hear. And it sounds like there are still questions that need to be answered here with this.
Right, and Jodi's mother has lots of those questions as well. We actually sat down with her and heard from her for the first time since Furlong was convicted back in January.
What is it like now knowing that someone is behind bars for this?
I'm glad that he's in there because, you know, what he killed her, and that's what I wanted, was whoever killed her to be arrested. I know she had a lot of friends, and her death impacted a lot of people, not just her family.
Furlong is also being considered in other open cases. I'm sure you guys remember Brittney Beers.
Yeah.
She was the 6-year-old who vanished from Sturgis in 1997. We're going to look more into this and tell you the 2 reasons why he's being considered a person of interest in her disappearance tonight at 6.
Okay. Suzanne, we'll see you then. Thank you so much.
Well, you know, it started as a missing child case. 6-year-old Brittney Beers, who you see right here, last seen outside her Sturgis home. That was back in 1997. For 19 years, it has gone unsolved.
But now a new person of interest, 65-year-old Daniel Furlong. He was convicted in the brutal murder of another young girl. You see her there, 11-year-old Jodi Parrack.
That's right. WSBT 22's Suzanne Spencer spent weeks talking to investigators. Suzanne, the similarities are obvious to police.
It boils down to 2 things, Jennifer. His capability in a composite drawing, one of a middle-aged man who was last seen talking to Brittney the night she disappeared. The lights have faded in the city of Sturgis.
We've never been able to move on.
An answer
We've always wondered where, how, who.
untold.
She was a very sweet little girl.
Brittney Beers loved her hair, the color pink, and everyone knew her smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Painted in the minds of her family.
We still see her as the little 6-year-old.
It was evening, September 16th, 1997. Brittney out riding her bike. Her mom went to run some errands. Her half-brother saw her sitting on a bench, but that was the last anyone heard from Brittney.
I haven't given up. We haven't given up.
It's in this room in the Sturgis Police Department that the light stays on for Brittney's case.
There's 10 binders of the tips.
Nearly 1,200 of them, 95% of them Chief Jeff Smith has closed out.
Whether that's through polygraph tests, whether that's through backgrounds with people determining that they weren't around and they weren't capable. So we've made some progress.
Then this year, Daniel Furlong convicted of murdering 11-year-old Jodi Parrack 8 years after her body was found in a Constantine cemetery.
When we first heard of that, flags start to go up.
Parrack's body found 15 miles away from where Beers went missing.
Anytime anyone in our area is capable of doing those types of things to children, to us, they're a possible suspect or person of interest.
Furlong was caught in 2015 after he tried to lure another girl into his White Pigeon garage, but she got away. His DNA came up as a match to DNA found on Parrack's body and clothing, but no one expected what happened next. Did your mind immediately go to that composite?
Yeah, yes it did.
2 reasons.
1, he's capable, and 2, he looks like the composite of the person that Brittney was possibly last seen talking to.
I'm telling the truth.
Furlong was grilled on the Parrack and Beers case in an interrogation. Smith was there to hear it all.
Cold, unremorseful. It didn't seem like he really cared. And that attributes to the fact that that's why it doesn't sit well with me.
But he says what he heard isn't good enough.
We know what he did to Jodi Parrack. And then several years later, he basically tried to do the same thing again, other than the girl in White Pigeon was able to escape. So if that's the case, what's to say he didn't do it before?
Detectives would not tell me if there was physical evidence like DNA linking Furlong to Beers' disappearance. In that interrogation room, though, Furlong said he had nothing to do with Beers, that he didn't kill her. We also know he underwent polygraph tests, and investigators at this point are not releasing those results.
There are still other persons of interest in this case?
There are a couple others, and they're not naming them at this point. The only reason they named Furlong is because of the heightened awareness of Parrack's case, you know, that was all over the news for quite some time. The takeaway here, though, if you know anything about this case, you're asked to call the Sturgis Police and also the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We've got all that information for you on our website and mobile app.
It's been almost 20 years, but that one tip could really help solve that case.
It's just a thread of hope that they need.
Yeah, Suzanne, thank you.